As you may know, Neurodiversity Week has been taking place this week. This is something I have been working on and helped the school to set up. I am autistic, and by speaking to you all today, I hope to raise awareness and understanding about autism and neurodiversity in general. The stigma surrounding neurodiversity is huge. When I was first told that I was on the spectrum 2 years ago, I was so ashamed I had thoughts of taking my own life and was hospitalized. 2 years on, after only just getting my official diagnosis, I've now learned that it is a part of me and I have a superpower and a gift. This is why I am advocating for neurodiversity and presenting to you today. So we are all different. The world would be a very boring place if everyone was the same. There are 7 billion people on this planet, so the world would not be able to function if everyone was the same culture, if everyone liked the same subjects, or if everyone had the same job. This is the same with neurodiversity and thinking differently. Everyone is different, and this is an advantage. We all bring different skill sets. Neurodiversity is based on the idea that everyone has a differently wired brain and their own unique way of thinking and experiencing the world. Neurodiversity is about recognizing and respecting that we don't all learn the same way. Differences in the way our brains are wired means that you may struggle to do things that others find easy. You may also find things easy that other people struggle with. So autism spectrum disorder is a lifelong developmental disability which affects how people communicate and interact with the world. 1 in 100 people are on the autism spectrum, and there are around 700,000 autistic adults and children in the UK. Autism is found in 4 boys for every 1 girl, and it affects both genders differently. This is why so many girls, like me, go undiagnosed for so long. Being autistic does not mean you have an illness or a disease. It simply means your brain works in a different way from other people. Autism is a spectrum. This means that everybody who's autistic is different. Some autistic people need little or no support, whilst others may need help from a parent or carer every day. But autism is not caused by bad parenting or vaccines, as so many people believe. Being autistic means I have many social challenges. So I find it hard to interpret non-verbal language. I cannot read facial expressions or body language, and I myself may not convey the right body language or facial expression. I may speak too loud or I may speak too quiet, and I often cannot control my volume level at times. Often, if I'm excited, I will speak really loud without realizing, but if I'm anxious, I will speak really quiet or can go non-verbal. I may also speak in a flat tone with no expression, or may sound annoyed, even when I'm not. For example, when I was younger and we were made to do class reading in English, I was always the one that got picked on by the teacher for sounding boring, and I was humiliated. We also take the literal meaning of everything. Jokes and sarcasm we quite often don't understand, and this can lead to bullying. For example, when I was younger and the teacher would say the expression, pull your socks up, I, being autistic, would take it literally and bend down and pull my socks up. Also, on a family Zoom call a couple of weeks ago, someone made a joke and everyone was laughing. I did not understand what was so funny, and I got very distressed and overwhelmed and went non-verbal. Eye contact can also be very painful, and I find it hard to maintain. So if I'm talking to you, I will have to keep looking away because it burns my eyes. I also don't understand social cues. So if someone talking to me is asking me a question, I will not know when it's my turn to speak. However, if I'm talking to someone I'm familiar with, I will speak all the time and won't know when to let them speak. This is why I may come across as being quite moody. This is not how I am. I am just so anxious and overwhelmed and so focused on smiling at the right time and saying hello and coming across okay with my body language that I simply look like that. I also find it hard to understand other people's emotions and their point of view. I lack empathy. I also find it hard to understand my own emotions and work out how I myself am feeling. This has led to mental health issues such as anxiety and depression. But one of the biggest myths is that we like to be alone. This is not true. I would love to have friends and company. It's all I've ever wanted. But I am different, and I have been bullied and emotionally abused because of this. As a consequence, I am terrified of socializing. I find it so overwhelming, and masking prevents me from being myself. I'll speak more about masking later. I also have much less energy available for socializing compared to neurotypicals, and it gets used up so much quicker. So I think of social energy like a phone battery. When it's at 100, you have a lot of energy to go out and be with people and socialize. But when it gets down to 0, you need time on your own to recover and recharge. So my social energy battery can often get used up within 1 or 2 hours, but a neurotypical's could get used up within 7 or 8 hours, which is why I find socializing so difficult. So if I'm out with a friend, for example, I can completely shut down after a certain period because all my energy is drained. And if I see someone for an hour, let's say, I will need 2 hours on my own to recover. So after the school day, before I can do any work, I have to spend an hour on my own to recover. I may also seem a lot older or younger than my peers. So when I was younger, I was a lot more mature, and when I was 12, I travelled on my own to Italy to swim for England. However, after being bullied in year 9, I am now so naive and innocent and young. I don't know what's socially appropriate to say, and I often do the wrong thing. This is why I am so scared to speak to people. So the glass jar theory is something I came across on the website The Girl with the Curly Hair. When my mum first introduced me to this organisation, I, being autistic, took the name quite literally and thought that everyone with autism had curly hair. Now, I myself have curly hair, so this is quite fitting. I drew this to represent how I feel when I'm surrounded by my neurotypical peer group. I feel disconnected and absent. I'm trapped in a glass jar, and no matter what I do, I cannot come out, and no one can join me. I'm suffocating. I'm living in a world that is not designed for me. I also have many sensory difficulties. So I may be over or undersensitive to sounds, light, smells, tastes, feel, temperatures, and pain. So I am extremely sensitive to sound. Everything has to be completely quiet, and I will often walk around with earplugs or noise-cancelling headphones on. The sounds that I find painful can range from anything to people talking, to people breathing, and I find it extremely difficult to go out and be around people. This is why at school, or even in public, I can come across as being moody. This is because I am on the verge of having a meltdown or a sensory overload. When I'm anxious, bright lights can also be very painful, and certain smells can also be very painful for me. This is why I find it so hard to go to the school dining room or to go to a restaurant, for example, because smells are too strong. I am also very sensitive to touch, so I cannot have any labels in any of my clothes because they are too itchy and painful. I cannot wear jeans, and I cannot wear anything tight under my arms. This is why I find wearing a suit at school very overwhelming. So if I was to see you and you came and gave me a hug or did physical contact, I would find it extremely distressing and overwhelmed. unless you gave me warning before or got my consent. This is why we find it so hard to leave the house and socialize and be with other people. Senses are so overwhelming and we cannot avoid them. I will often be on the verge of a meltdown, but will mask it. I also have many other traits. So stimming is a repetitive movement or sound that I may do to calm myself when I'm overwhelmed, or to stimulate myself when I'm happy and excited. I also have intense interests that take over my life. These are obsessive, and I have to research everything, and it's all I can talk about. But these may be very different to neurotypicals. For example, you and I may both like horses. You will know some of the breeds and you may think they're cute, but I will have to find out the average length of stride for each breed and then make an Excel spreadsheet. So although we like the same thing, we are very different. I also love routines, and I have to plan everything. Every minute of every day is planned a week in advance. And if something changes, this can cause me extreme distress. For example, if I'm meeting a friend at 10 o'clock, I will get there for 9:45. But if they get there at 10:01, to you, that's on time. But to me, that's late, and I get extremely anxious and overwhelmed, and it can ruin the whole day. We also have mental health issues. This is linked to our constant anxiety and masking. We hide our true selves and constantly feel like we're not enough. Sensory issues may also mean we like to self-harm, and bullying can cause depression. I also have imagination difficulties. So when I was younger, I found it hard to do imaginative play and imagine what others are feeling. This is why I prefer to read non-fiction books to fiction. I cannot imagine the characters. I don't know what they look like, I don't know what they're feeling, and I most certainly cannot read a book that is not logical and does not make sense. This is why I find it so hard to tell stories as well. For example, when I was younger and we were all made to take drama class, I was always the one that got shouted at by the teacher for not putting myself in the character's shoes. At one time, I was even given an after-school detention. This is not acceptable. So as I've previously mentioned, stimming is a repetitive sound or movement. Everything on this slide are common stims that I may do, but you will not always see them, as I may mask and hide it. So some I do for different emotions to stimulate my needs in that moment. So when I'm anxious, I may rapidly blink or grind my teeth or bite my cheek. And when I'm excited, I may jump up and down and flap my arms. And some I just do all the time because it makes me feel more at ease, such as leg bouncing, skin picking, and fiddling. If you see someone doing any of these, do not mention it, do not judge, do not say anything. We are simply coping and being ourselves, and you should take it as a compliment that we feel comfortable enough around you to do that. So masking is when we change our behavior to seem more neurotypical and hide our autistic traits. I mask so that I can fit in and be accepted. I control all my impulses, all my sensory issues, and everything I've just spoken about to appear more normal. So I will copy others. I'll copy how they stand, what they wear, their interests. I will copy everything. I will also overthink everything and question everything. So if I'm talking to you, going through my head will be, should I smile? Have I made enough eye contact? Is it my turn to speak? Is my body language okay? This is exhausting. I may also bottle up all my emotions and sensory build-ups, everything that makes me who I am. I may also come up with escape routes, so I will always work out how long I have left until I can leave. I will also locate the nearest bathroom and come up with the quickest route in case I get too overwhelmed and need to go and hide. I may also rehearse answers to questions and conversations in advance, and then read off the script to appear socially acceptable. So I always have the same thing I say whenever I meet someone, even if it's not how I'm feeling. I may also put on an act and pretend to be someone I'm not. I hide my true self. So no one will ever see any of my difficulties or my autistic traits, apart from maybe my parents. This is because I put on my mask. And this is why I struggle with my mental health. I pretend everything is fine, even when it's not. I may also struggle to pay attention. This is not because I'm being rude or I'm not interested. I am just so overwhelmed by everything, or I'm about to have a meltdown. So a meltdown is when we are so overwhelmed we lose control of our behavior. This can be expressed verbally by shouting, crying, and screaming, or physically by kicking, rocking back and forth, or being aggressive. So in the past, when I've had a meltdown, I have physically hurt members of my own family. A lot of autistic girls will hide these meltdowns when we're in public, and it will all come out when we reach a safe place like home. For example, if you were to see me at a socializing event, from the outside, I would come across as being very quiet. I would look sweaty, moody, and I may isolate myself. But this is not how I am. This is just because I am trying to mask, and I'm putting all my effort into appearing normal, and I just simply am too overwhelmed. Masking is so common in girls, and this is why we go undiagnosed for so long, and often get comments like, "You don't look autistic." This can cause low self-esteem, mental health issues, because we are constantly hiding our true selves, and we may not even realize. So for me, as soon as I leave the house, my mask comes on, and I'm not even aware of it. Whilst getting my diagnosis, the lady I spoke to told me about how sometimes she has experienced schools argue with a diagnosis, as they claim they have never seen our autistic traits. I have experienced exactly this. I have been told by numerous people whilst being at school that I am not autistic. Now, this is not acceptable. And this is all due to masking, which is so common in girls, and no one understands. The autism iceberg is something I drew to portray what you see from the outside versus what goes on underneath. So if you were to look at me, you would probably see someone who's very well behaved, always wants to do the right thing, and works really hard. But what you don't see is my constant need for perfection, my anxiety and excessive worrying, my social confusion and always feeling different, my communication problems, my sensory overloads, and my exhaustion because I'm living in a world that is not designed for me. So although I may have many challenges and struggles because I am autistic, I believe, like Greta Thunberg once said, that it is also a superpower. My attention to detail is immaculate, which means that everything I do is accurate and thorough. Because I myself am different, this means I am less likely to judge other people, and I may question and break social norms. Others may see my no filter to be a negative. However, I view it differently. I am honest, loyal, and fully committed to whatever or whoever I care about. I also have an excellent ability to absorb and retain facts, which leads to an excellent long-term memory. I have found this extremely helpful, especially whilst being at school and studying for exams. I am observant, and I notice everything around me. I also can have a very deep focus for a task and can concentrate for long periods of time without getting distracted. I have a methodical approach to whatever I do. I love maths, and this is what I plan to do at uni. So being autistic, is definitely a gift for me. I am able to analyze and spot patterns in data much more easily than neurotypicals. I also have a very strong sense of right and wrong. I always follow the rules, and I don't like it when other people break them. I am passionate about what I care about and my interests, and my thinking style means that I am often able to think differently to neurotypicals and think outside of the box. So these statistics I found on the National Autistic Society's website. 73% of those who are autistic experience bullying in school years 9 to 11. 40% think that autism can be cured. Those who are autistic are 3 times more likely to take their own life, and 71% have a mental health condition. Now, these are not acceptable. I have experienced so much bullying from my peers, so by spreading awareness of hidden disabilities, I hope you will all be more understanding. Do not make assumptions about anyone, because you don't know what is going on underneath. If someone doesn't understand a joke, don't tease or make fun of them. That is the same as making fun of someone in a wheelchair for using a ramp. Not acceptable. Instead, be kind, understanding, and encouraging. You have the power to create a positive difference. So Neurodiversity Week is all about celebrating and raising awareness of the strengths and talents of people who are autistic and have a learning difference, such as ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, and Tourette's. So many famous and successful people are neurodiverse. Emma Watson has ADHD, Steve Jobs, the creator of Apple, had autism, and Einstein had dyslexia and autism, just to name a few. Yet no one knows, so there is still such a large stigma and stereotypical views. Neurodiversity Week is a way of reminding everyone of the importance of being kind, tolerant, and accepting towards everyone, but especially those like me who are neurodiverse. It is also a way of recognizing the hard work, resilience, and determination of people like me. The school environment is not the ideal place for those neurodiverse to showcase our unique strengths and talents. But Neurodiversity Week serves as a reminder that no matter what our differences and challenges, we all have our own individual strengths. So gaslighting is where someone, whether they're aware of it or not, makes comments that invalidate your feelings and feel like you're making it all up. Everything on this slide are things that I have heard, whether it's from family, friends, or teachers, and to me, it's not acceptable. The first one is you can't expect everyone to change just for you. I have heard this numerous times, and it's not right. My therapist a couple of weeks ago said that sometimes in life, I will have to adapt for the neurotypical world, but sometimes they will have to adapt for me. And this is exactly true. I'm living in a world that isn't designed for me, and you need to help me to get on with it. The next one is just get on with it. If I'm having a sensory overload, I cannot just get on with it. I am so overwhelmed and distressed. And this links to the next one, stop being silly. I'm not being silly. To you, it may not sound like a lot, but to me, it's incredibly painful and distressing, and I cannot just switch it off. You just need to be more positive. Again, if I'm thinking negatively and if I'm suicidal, I cannot just switch it off and be more positive. When someone says this, it makes me feel like I'm making it all up and like what I'm feeling isn't true. And that's the same with stop faking. The next one, you don't look autistic. Autism doesn't have a look. You can be a girl, a boy, a child, elderly, an adult. There is no one look, and people need to stop thinking of the stereotypical young boy. You are such an attention seeker. I am not seeking attention if I have a meltdown. I hate attention. I hate people looking at me. And when people say this, it just proves how little they understand me. Everything on this slide are accounts that I have found incredibly useful on social media. Whether you're autistic and looking to learn more, or you're simply a neurotypical wanting to find out more about what it's like to be me, I highly recommend all of these accounts. So if you want to have a look, I would. Ever since joining the autism community on social media, I, for once in my life, have felt accepted, and I've never been happier. Thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, you can always get in contact with me.